We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'm your host this morning. We'll be joined about quarter after the hour by Jere Gettle. He is the owner and purveyor of Baker Seeds, a Baker Seed Company. They have a website at rareseeds.com. I would encourage you to get out there, take a look at what they have to offer. It's a rather large organization, and they have quite a history and quite a unique product and service. Baker Creek is known nationwide, in fact, globally for their operation. They have 1,450 varieties of rare and unique seeds from over 70 countries. So we'll be talking a little bit further with Jere Gettle about that. And I want to touch on a couple of news stories this morning that will impact us. There's an article out in the Business Insider that the IRS will now be spying on your shopping records, your travel, your social interactions, your health records, and your files that will from other government investigations. The problem here, folks, is that, you know, all of the U.S. intelligence agencies, whether it's the CIA or the NSA, they'll all be spying on the United States of American citizens. And this is all, has been legalized, and I use that term loosely, by a group of tyrants in our government who believe that you have no right to privacy, that they have, that it is their obligation to institute and introduce 1984 in 2014. And I find that to be an absolute shame. The IRS will use robo-audits and data mining. It has told government and industry groups that its computers are capable of scanning multiple networks at the same time to collect matching comprehensive profiles for every taxpayer in America. Profiles will include shopping records, travel, social interactions, and information not available to the public, like health records and files from other government investigators. Folks, you got to recognize this is a project, of total, absolute monitoring, and it is unconscionable that our government willingly, openly, publicly announces what they're going to do, and America just doesn't give a damn. It's beyond comprehension that this is where we stand. We do have a declaration that came out yesterday, and that is a group or a document that shows that our own governor recently, or received a letter, I should say, back in 2010 from Janet Napolitano, in which she thanked him for breaking state law. Yes, that's true. She actually thanked him for implementing and his work towards implementing Real ID. Yes. Even though there's a law that says the state of Missouri may not institute Real ID, she is thanking him in writing for doing so. Folks, I have to tell you, if this doesn't explain or give us a reason to basically impeach this governor or ask for his resignation, I don't know what more will. Here you have a blatant disregard for the privacy of the citizens that he is supposed to be protecting, a blatant disregard for the privacy of their concealed carry information as distributed by the Missouri Department of Highway Patrol and the Missouri Department of Revenue. I mean, folks, what you have to realize here is that we have people operating in our government, including our state government, who are here to betray every role that they are expected to operate under or play as an elected representative. How does a governor have the audacity to violate the law, clearly, openly, and we allow him to get away with it. I'm calling upon our House of Representatives right now. I would like to see impeachment paperwork on the table before Monday. That is the simple reality of it. This governor should be impeached, or at absolute minimum, his resignation should be demanded. People, we cannot allow this to happen within our own purview. You know, I get it when you say, hey, you know, my vote doesn't count. We have no power in the federal side. Okay. So what's your excuse for not leaning on your representatives right now to remove the governor? Clean your own house before you start worrying about the federal side. Part of Restore Missouri is that we build a fire break, a firewall, a bulwark against federal overreach. But that means that first and foremost, our own house, our own fort has to be clear. You do that by clearing out the trash in your own home first. And I'm telling you right now, Governor Nixon, what you are, sir, is trash. You need to be removed from office. If you will not go willingly, then we should be impeaching you to remove you from office. I'm making it a public statement. Are you? House of Representatives, where are you? Senate, where are you? I want to see impeachment processes beginning immediately. If you're unwilling to do that, then get him in a closed room. Let him know that impeachment will begin if he does not resign. But get this man out of office. We don't even know what other betrayals he has committed. But we do know two very, very big ones. He's violated the law, a 2009 law prohibiting Real ID implementation. And he has distributed with full and willful knowledge and then lied about the issue of our CCW holders. Those two issues alone are enough. We need nothing more. Public support will be to eject this man from office. Remember, impeachment is not about a criminal proceeding of any kind. That can come later. Impeachment does one thing. It removes and ceases the threat. The threat against the state, the independent, the sovereign republic of Missouri. This is a micro-republic. It's one of a larger group in our federal republic, our national republic, but it is still an independent state with its own legislation, its own laws. How this can go on, I'm telling you, if our legislature does not act upon this, then I got to tell you, we are going to have to take some serious drastic action with our own legislature to get this resolved. The pressure is on you. The pressure is on the House right now. You're either going to remove this man from office and protect us from his threat, or we're going to have to remove you from office for refusing to do your job. Remember, you represent us. And make no mistake about it. I make no bones about it. If you will not represent us properly, if you will not represent our best interests, if you will not protect us, then you need to go as well. Now, I know that there's a lot of folks out there that will say, well, you know, you're supposed to be working. No, I'm not. You're supposed to be working for us. I'm not supposed to be working with you. Let's get our roles clear here. I'm the watchdog. You're the dog that needs watching. And right now, this dog at the top needs to go. He needs to be culled from the political herd. And the only way that you're going to accomplish that is via impeachment or resignation. I lay it right on the line. Either impeach him, or either get him to resign voluntarily, or impeach him. But I'm telling you right now, there is no other alternative. You're either going to impeach, or he's going to resign. But one way or the other, I'm going to ride and hammer this issue. I'm going to beat this dead dog with this dead horse with this dead dog until either he goes or you go. But that is the ultimatum. Somebody's leaving. And it better be Nixon. We're going to be joined by Jere Gettle from Baker Creek Seed after this segment. Listen, people, we need a massive grassroots uprising to say, this guy's got to go. Civil disobedience, letters, phone calls, I don't care what it takes, but you need to get the word to your House representative that this behavior is unacceptable and we will not tolerate it. You're listening to America's Voice. We'll be right back.
The area's best selection of firearms, ammunition, and accessories can only be found at West Plains Pawn and Jewelry.
Online at westplainspawn.com.
Top of the line new and used optics from Nikon, Leopold, Burris, Redfield, Zeiss, and Schmidt & Bender. Ask about their selection of binoculars, laser sights, and night vision goggles. With new arrivals every week, the area's best selection of firearms, ammunition, and accessories can only be found at West Plains Pawn and Jewelry, 1713 West U.S. Highway 160, or shop online at westplainspawn.com.
The question is, can you name this movie?
Kabushi-Finger? You're bluffing. Shifu didn't teach you that.
I don't know. My daughter Ashley yells, Kung Fu Panda, and she's driving, so I had to call.
Way to go, Ashley. You know what this means.
I've got about 4 more years to go of not knowing anything.
You know what else it means?
What else does it mean?
We're giving the prize to Ashley.
That's fine.
Join Cooper and Company weekday mornings 6 to 8 a.m. here on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point.
All right, we're back. You know, the ideas behind Restore Missouri are real clear. The goals are clear. Pass legislative change that will benefit all Missourians. Make sure that we're doing what we need to do to get Missouri in the forefront of the nation. And one of the ways in which we accomplish that goal is by making sure that we ourselves are self-sufficient, self-reliant, and prepared. And so we've got a guest joining us this morning from the Baker Seed Company. His name is Jere Gettle, and he'll be speaking with us this morning about the history. Now, Baker Creek, for argument's sake, is located right here in Mansfield. So they're a part of our effort, and they're a part of our Restore Missouri family in the sense that you have an opportunity to purchase heirloom seeds from this company. They've got a long, long history. They've been doing this for a long time. They are nationally known. They are probably one of the largest heirloom seed companies in the nation, if not the biggest. And will be interesting to hear from Jere. Good morning, Jere. Thank you for joining with us.
Morning. Good to be on the air with you today.
Well, thank you. Thanks. I've bumped into you once or twice at a few different events. We had I met you down at the Go Green Festival in Thayer. I think it was last one, and the one perhaps before that as well.
All right.
You have Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company, and you folks have been in the forefront of this fight against GMO and genetically engineered and genetically modified products. Right now, I think Baker Creek is probably the largest seed company in the nation doing this. Is that a fair statement?
I don't know. There's several of us out there that are working on it, but we're one of the larger 3 or 4 companies that are into preserving heirloom seeds and passing them on. So.
Well, we like you because you're right in our backyard.
So we definitely are not too far away. So that is nice.
Your family. We very, very strongly promote and drive the idea here on America's Voice of our folks being self-reliant and self-sufficient. And I think one of the best ways that we can do that is in one thing that we all can't avoid, and that is the simple process of eating 3 times a day. Having the benefits of a good, solid food supply that is not only usable today but is replicable tomorrow is one of the primary, I think, cornerstones of that. And so, maybe you can, for the benefit of our listening audience, kind of give us an overview of what Baker Seed has been doing along those lines. I think a lot of people, and I still get questions from folks, well, what exactly is an heirloom seed? What's the difference between that and what I buy at the grocery store in those little paper packets? So if you don't mind maybe giving us a quick, the quick down and dirty 3-minute elevator speech, if you will.
Yeah, what we basically do is save old varieties of seeds. And the heirloom seeds are basically seeds that have been passed down from generation. They're, in public domain, unlike, patented seeds and genetically engineered seeds that are controlled by a corporation or, the government or whoever developed them has the patent on them. Heirloom seeds are like seeds always were until like the 1950s when people started to patent and hybridize. And then even further advances when genetic engineering happened and people started adding genes from unrelated species, maybe from a mouse or a fish or so forth and so forth.
Spider tomatoes.
Spider, yeah. And so basically, that was even a further development and it just even increased control because the companies that developed them also developed chemicals to go with the crops, and they're continuing to do that. So, when you sign up for a contract, often you're also signing up to use their pesticides.
Right.
So it's kind of your farm is not really capable, if you're growing that way, capable of, being self-sufficient.
Sure.
So what we do is basically, search out old varieties, both here in America and other places. We have people all over the globe and all over America sending us seeds. We also, when we're traveling, we listen for people that, it might be somebody from a garden club in Asheville, North Carolina, or somebody, up the road here in Nixa that has something. Sometimes they bring it into the store and say, here's a sample of something, or they send it to us. Or when we're out and about, we meet somebody and they say, I have a tomato that's been in my family for 4 generations.
Right.
And these are the older varieties that we try to get as much history as we can, grow them out, document them, and get them into the catalog. And we started out, I started out basically when I was 17 out of my bedroom with about 70 different varieties that I had been collecting. And it's growing every year. This year we're up to about 1,450 different heirloom varieties, and it's still just a small percentage of what we actually have been sent or collected. We have a total of about 5,000 varieties. And each year we try to grow more and more of those out. Us and other growers that we have that work with us, both home gardeners and small farmers.
Right.
And try to get these into the catalog. And that's basically what we do, is keeping these varieties alive and also encouraging people, especially on the rarer varieties, to save their own seed, because some years we're not able to produce every single variety, especially if it's something, kind of unique.
Right, right. Now, you have these seeds that are kind of unique from not just the United States, but some 70 countries around the world.
We do, and that's, I think it's beneficial to have a wide variety of genetics to work with, both because it's fun and interesting, but also, things from, say, Thailand, for example, it's done really well here in the Ozarks in our heat and humidity.
Sure. I was going to say, climatically, as a national company selling across the country, you've got to cover everything from the mountains to the deserts to swamplands and the South or Florida, all the way up to, the rainy areas and the high humidity areas that you might have up in the Northwest and things like that. So.
Yeah, so that's part of the reason we do it, and also a lot of the big reason is a lot of the U.S. development in seeds now is being produced for areas like California, or corn is produced to be grown in Iowa and northern Missouri and Nebraska. It's not being produced anymore to be grown, in the deep South or in the real short seasons. And tomatoes are, grown in California and Mexico, basically. So they're developed for certain climates, not for, across America, and
Sure.
Unfortunately.
Right. So when you obtain now, one of the problems as I see it is that we are implementing this genetically altered material here in the United States at an alarming rate. We have no idea what the long-term ramifications are. The studies that we do get are bogus because they're paid for by the companies that are actually providing the product, and so therefore, that's kind of asking the cat to watch the mousetrap. And but in this case, we have seeds that are coming from all over the world, and many other countries aren't allowing genetically modified products, and they're not allowing these genetically altered materials into their agricultural system. So, I mean, is there a benefit to being able to get these seeds that are, more pure from foreign nations versus what we have domestically here?
There's definitely that. It's becoming more and more of an issue. But the biggest crop, though, overall, that is the biggest challenge is corn because it's wind pollinated.
Right.
And so far, the other crops, besides soybeans and canola and a few other crops, but fortunately for soybeans, it doesn't cross-pollinate near as easily, so it's easier to maintain. Corn, on the other hand, which is a very staple crop for America, pollinates very easily. So, I mean, we're actually starting a hand-pollinating project this year, simply kind of like when you breed corn, but we're not crossing different varieties. We're using the same genetics and, the same variety with the same variety. Just we're going to start bagging and hand-pollinating simply because our success rate any other way is limited. We only have so many spots that we're actually isolated enough where we don't. We really need a 10-mile radius to be fairly safe.
Right.
And know the crop is going to be clean.
How can a small farmer be able to protect their crop from being cross-pollinated by these hybrids and genetically modified materials from farms that are not using or that are using hybrid or GMO based products? In other words, here, let's say you're going to grow an acre of corn for your family and you're expecting to be able to take this and regrow it the following year. How can they prohibit or bar the pollination by the hybrids in the area?
Yeah, if they're keeping it clean from GMOs, it's almost impossible unless, there's a few exceptions. Say if you're right along the coast, for example, and the wind always blows one way,
right.
In general, then, or if you're in a mountain valley, where there's really nobody else, there's nobody else in the valley, and you have, fairly tall mountains.
Sure.
Or if you're, up to a national forest and you're positive nobody else is, growing anything anywhere around you. There's a few exceptions, but by and large, for the average American, probably 90% of America has, even if you're in New York City, has some GMO corn growing somewhere within 10 miles around from you. And you might be okay. A lot of times it doesn't blow that far, but in a windstorm, it can go a long, long ways.
Sure. So how can one prevent that so that they know that the following year they're going to actually get a non-genetically modified product?
Besides just isolating it with huge distances, the only other way really, there's a couple options. It would be growing it in a greenhouse and hand-pollinating it,
okay,
or bagging it all, which you can buy. There's several companies that offer corn tasseling and bagging equipment. So, it's fairly basic equipment. It's basically bags and drawstrings and a few other, small pieces of equipment that you can easily, but it's the biggest thing, it's time consuming. You got to be right at the right time, and you need to, read up on it and, watch a few videos to make sure that you're going to, and it's a little bit trial and error. The first year you might as well, maybe just do it for a trial, maybe plant several colors of corn so you can actually see if your method of pollination is safe. Maybe plant a blue corn and a yellow corn and see how your pollination does, on a test level. And with bagging and hand pollinating, which is basically, cutting the tassels and pollinating the silks at the right time.
Sure. Now, do you guys offer any kind of classes or programs to educate folks on how to do that? Is there anything on your website that helps people know what the process should be for them to follow to do hand pollination or protection?
We don't actually offer anything so far, but we're going to be doing it this summer. So if anybody's interested, they could schedule with the lady that's working with our corn breeding project. And we're just doing a small, again, we're going to see if this is viable commercially, simply because the costs are a lot higher.
Right.
So we're going to try a small amount of, probably about 20-some different varieties this year. So if anybody's interested, they could contact us, a little later on, probably in June, and we'd have an estimate on when it's going to be going on, and we'd be welcome. They'd be welcome just to come out and watch. Okay.
Well, folks, for the record, it's rareseeds.com. That's rareseeds.com. And you have a contact, which is seeds@rareseeds.com as well. But when we come back, you have other locations in the United States, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your Petaluma and your Comstock projects. Can you stick with us through this break?
Sure can.
Okay.
That'd be great.
We're going to have to take a break because this is capitalist radio in operation here, so something's got to pay the freight.
All right.
We're going to take a break, folks. We'll be back in just a moment. We're speaking with Jere, who from Rare Seeds or Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, as you probably know them better. And he'll kind of give us an idea on what some of their national scope projects are as well. We'll be back in just a moment, and we might be able to even squeeze a few phone calls in towards the tail or the top end of the hour. We'll be back in just a second. You're listening to America's Voice Now.
Fox News Radio. I'm Chris Foster. Fewer Americans file for unemployment, the fewest, in fact, since January of 2008.
324,000 people filed for first-time jobless benefits last week, according to the Labor Department. The estimate there was for 345,000, so a lower than expected number of people filed for first-time jobless benefits last week.
That's Fox Business Network's Diane Macedo. The trade deficit drops with less oil being brought in from other countries, the least in 17 years. On the calendar, spring started 6 weeks ago.
Winter coats and shovels in Colorado and Wyoming where several inches of snow have fallen. One Colorado resident saying,
it means full reservoirs and less fire danger, but it hurts my back.
Wyoming has been in a drought, so more snowpack is good news for summer. Today, 2 to 5 inches of snow expected across portions of Kansas, Nebraska, and Iowa. Southeastern and northwestern Minnesota could get 4 to 8 inches.
That's Jennifer Kuiper. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Thanks to our friends over at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance. You can reach Brian down there at 870-492-4030. It's located a half mile east of Walmart on 3225 Route 62, Mountain Home. My dear friend Mary over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, the best damn bakery in 100 miles. She's located at number 2 Evans Arcade, and you can call her at 255-2253. My friends over at Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner Boulevard. They have an outstanding lunch opportunity. You can, from 11 till 2, and you can have salad and pizza, something tasty and something good for you. Our friends Bill Stone over at Stone Construction at 293-0116. If you're considering doing any kind of remodeling, new or custom construction and or light commercial, give Bill a call and let him bid on your next project. Our friends at the Battery Station at 303 Washington Avenue, 417-257-7799. They can be found at thebatterystation.com. Our friends over at West Plains Pawn and Gun, an outstanding opportunity with 400 firearms under glass. You can reach them at 417-256-3000, and they are located at westplainspawn.com. Located physically at Highway 160, about a mile past Walmart on the right-hand side. And finally, the sponsor of our phone lines, Wits End Classic Barbershop, located on the square in West Plains. Best haircut you can get for $10, and a nice young man as well. Please visit and support our sponsors.
Hi, it's Hugh Hewitt on the next Hugh Hewitt Show. The next governor of Virginia, Ken Cuccinelli. The current senator from South Dakota, John Thune. I'll also be joined by Bill Kristol, and we'll talk with all of them about immigration reform and what is ahead in the United States Senate, and Marco Rubio. Don't miss any minute of the next Hugh Hewitt Show.
Sundays from 6 till 7, following Money Talk with Bob Brinker, it's the Weekend Journal with Hugh Hewitt on the Ozark's Best News Talk 107.1.
News Talk 107.1 The Point Weather sponsorships are available for your business marketing plans. Contact Cody or Josh at 255-2548 for more information.
From the Point Weather Center for this one, we'll have mostly cloudy skies, clouds and showers through the day, the high 74. Mostly cloudy, much chillier tonight with showers, low 38. Mostly cloudy skies tomorrow with a few showers likely, the high 50. Still a chance for a shower Saturday. I'm staff meteorologist Jim Rinaldi, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
Out of 365 days a year, we celebrate holidays, anniversaries, and other important days. But there is one day you look forward to, your birthday.
I wanna wish you a happy
Ryan's Steakhouse of West Plains is proud to bring you the Birthday Club weekday mornings with Cooper & Company. Our daily winner receives one buffet and a drink to Ryan's. Just call your birthdays in weekday mornings with Cooper & Company at 255-0427. Brought to you by Ryan's and the Ozarks Best News Talk.
And happy birthday to you. Cha-cha-cha-cha.
All right. We're speaking this morning with Jere Gettle from Baker Seed Company. Their web address is rareseeds.com. That's rareseeds.com. And they are located right here in, or headquartered, I should say, right here in Mansfield. And they have a couple of other locations around the nation as well, including in California, and as I usually refer to it as California, and also in Connecticut. So, Jere, can you kind of give us an overview on your Comstock Ferry location and what that's all about?
Sure. Yeah, that's basically an old seed company in Wethersfield, Connecticut, near Hartford, and it was the oldest seed company in New England area that's still surviving. It's about just over 203 years old this year. So it was being closed down, and developers were talking about, trying to put housing in there and so forth. But the owners of the company had been getting our catalog, and that they had been trying to save it for the last 20 years, but he wasn't able to, keep it going by himself anymore. So he was trying to figure out a way to keep it alive without, selling it to the developers, and contacted us, and we worked out a deal to keep it moving. But it's a historic company with the original houses there from 1767. And where the owner basically started his gardens and started the business out of the gardens, much like what we did here at Baker Creek. And all the old equipment, much of it is still there. He has orders from 1821 still in the building. Old printing presses and seed packets and catalogs and so forth. So it was just too great of a. It was like almost a museum that just needed to be cleaned up in the making. Plus, it was an opportunity for us to put in a seed store in the East Coast. So we we didn't need another project, but we thought it was just an amazing 2-acre place in the middle of a historic town.
Sure, and I know all about overload of projects. Trust me.
Yeah.
So that location over there is really kind of unique in the sense that it also gives you an opportunity to kind of spread the gospel of good seed, I guess is one way to call it, out on the East Coast as well. Because I think there are a lot of folks in the more suburban areas or the more congested areas in our country on both left and right coasts that really are not involved in their hands in the dirt kind of living that you get in the Midwest. And I think it's educational, if nothing else, just for folks to recognize that what you're doing is, if for no other reason than it promotes the question, well, what's the difference between heirloom and hybrid? And once they've opened up that door, you have an opportunity to explain the whole thing about our food supply being hijacked effectively by GMOs, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a great opportunity for that. It's also it makes you pull your hair out dealing with all the permits and regulation in Connecticut. It's
oh my goodness, yeah.
It was a shocking. It's still a shocking experience compared to Missouri and even California. I mean, it's like every letter in the book, they make sure everything is applied.
Right, sure. We're going to deny your permit because you forgot to dot this I.
Yeah, it's just like might as well plan on a year worth of meetings before you get anything.
Sure. I lived in New Jersey for most of my life, in the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area, including near Philadelphia and New York City and so forth. Trust me, I mean, you got to get a permit to change your dishwasher.
Yeah.
So, and that's in your house. Getting a commercial permit, I understand, especially in Connecticut, which is probably one of the most heavily regulated states in the nation.
I mean, they're great to work with, and they're as far as being friendly. But you just you might as well forget doing anything like on a normal, what you would think is a normal time frame.
Sure, they actually have people in states like that really actually their sole job is to help expedite your paperwork. You have to hire expediting consultants. So let's talk a little bit about Petaluma in Sonoma.
We love the climate there. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'll bet. So tell me a little bit about that particular project. You bought a bank building out there, right?
Yeah, we actually are leasing it. We just do, long-term leases on it. But it's an old Sonoma County bank building in the heart of Petaluma, which is one of the few actually truly historic towns in California, which is what we really liked about Petaluma. It's the houses there are from the 1880s, unlike many parts of California where they were torn down for strip malls or had earthquakes, and the earthquakes, destroyed a lot of the old homes as well.
Right.
So Petaluma still has, it feels very Victorian downtown, and the old bank building is, granite and marble, and it looks like what you would think of the classic, you drive if you're watching a 1950s or 1940s or 30s movie, and you're looking at an old bank. That's what it looks like. It's a bank from the 20s,
right?
And it has the huge vault downstairs and the marble floors. And
how cool is that?
and anyway, we thought, man, it's just a beautiful opportunity, and we didn't think we would get it, but we talked to the owner, and it all worked together really quick. And we've been, before we even opened there, it was amazing the amount of people. They have a year-round climate there, so I mean, before we even opened, people were there, digging through the boxes of seeds, trying to help us unpack and get seeds out to buy. It's been very, very busy there, and a lot of good publicity because it's in a bank, and we're selling seeds, and we call it the Seed Bank.
Yeah, how cool is that?
It just kind of all fell together. And fortunately, the city of Petaluma, although they have lots of regulations, they don't seem to enforce anything really at all. So
they're all on the books, but nobody's paying attention.
Nobody's paying attention as long as you don't go and apply.
Right.
And we get all the basic permits. I mean, we're not saying we don't do that, but I mean, as long as you don't, they're very lenient. And like our permit when we moved in, it was funny. They didn't get us our business permit for 2 months, and they just told us to write a note on the wall saying that we had one.
Wow.
So it was way different than, Connecticut that has everything has to be exact before you start. They just tell you, the city manager just tells you to write a note on the wall. So it was kind of a different environment. But.
Sure. Well, one, out there you've got, like you mentioned, a year-round climate for growth. Two, you also have folks that are much more interested in healthy living than we generally have in a lot of places in the Midwest, or especially the East Coast. And so it's been my experience, having visited California many times. I've never actually lived there, but having visited there, that it is a very health-conscious environment there. And folks are much more likely to understand and grasp the idea of heirloom or non-genetically modified material than they might be in the East Coast so much.
Yeah, it's definitely, the East Coast is kind of like just realizing that what they've lost. I mean, and California has kind of realized it before, and I think the East Coast is a little behind even, the Midwest, where we're finally starting to realize. I mean, but the country overall, everywhere, people are starting to realize that we need our small farmers back. I mean, if we're going to be self-sufficient, no matter where we're at, if we don't have small farmers, if we're importing food from California to Missouri and from Mexico to California and from China to New York, our country is, dependent on other
foreign nations
or international, countries.
Sure, foreign nations. I mean, we should never allow something as basically minimalistic as our food supply to be controlled by foreign governments and foreign nations, and the import-export, craziness of market rates and tariffs and all these other issues, right? I mean,
and that's why I think so many people, all that, and then the health issues. I mean, people I think are really, and the small towns, drive through a small town like here in Mansfield and realize what shut it down is the disappearance of agriculture. I mean, these are agriculture communities. Agriculture disappears, the town dies, and I mean that's happened in thousands of small towns, especially in the Midwest. I mean, the Midwestern towns. When the farmers all go away and all that's left is, 2 or 3, big corporate farmers, some of them owned by, a big, one of the big food corporations.
Sure.
There's basically no reason to stay in the Midwest. You can't get a job on a farm anymore. So.
Right. And they've instituted all the mechanical methods of maintaining that farm, so you don't need physical workers anymore. A lot of times they'll literally take the farmhouse and just vacate it and leave it empty, or hand it over to a manager or an overseer to live in. And for all intents and purposes, they run the farm in a mechanized fashion that doesn't require physical human labor at some point. I grew up in New Jersey, as I'd mentioned to you, and that state is called the Garden State. That is actually their state logo or motto. And, most people think New Jersey is all, one giant Newark that runs from north to south, and it really isn't. Where I grew up, it was very much like where we are here. And we saw the death of the small farmer there as people began to, take the family farm and sell it off to a developer who would turn around and build a bunch of McMansions on it. And, they just took their money and waltzed off to, I guess, some private island or something. I don't know what they did with it. But, that we saw the death of the family farm in that regard. There was orchards and, the corn there was there was so much of it. You could find it on any corner. There would be a little farmer's market set up, and you don't see that anymore on the coast. And frankly, you don't even see it here that often anymore. So
it's happened across the country, any of these small farming areas, and that's one thing we do really appreciate about Petaluma area is that even though it's happened there too, there is a lot of, especially younger people that are really trying to make a go of it. But it's happening all over. I mean, we have younger people here in Missouri that are trying to all the time trying to figure out how to get this going again. There's a generation of people out there right now that want to get back into farming.
Right.
It's just trying to figure out how to get around the monopoly that's been put in place to only make you sell through, a chain and how to get farming back into the, but the little stores are starting to realize also that they need to start supporting farmers too, the local
farmers markets and grocery stores and stuff like that. Sure.
There really are the small, like the town and countries and so forth, around Missouri are starting to realize that there's interest. I mean, we've been hearing. We're going to take a quick
break. We'll be right back.
If you're looking for a new or used pistol, shotgun, or rifle, West Plains Pawn and Gun has over 450 firearms in stock. All your favorite models like Beretta, Glock, Smith & Wesson, Kimber, and many, many more. West Plains Pawn and Gun is also a Class 3 arms dealer, so if they don't have it on the shelf, West Plains Pawn and Gun can order it for you. Even those hard-to-get guns. West Plains Pawn and Gun, 1713 U.S. Highway 160 West in West Plains, or online at westplainspawn.com.
If you're looking for great deals on iPads or Kindles, look no further than your neighborhood Radio Shack authorized sales center. They've got great deals on the latest iPads and Kindles. Maybe you need a new GPS or an MP3 player to get your music library ready for those barbecues. Whatever your electronic needs, stop by your local neighborhood Radio Shack authorized dealer in West Plains at 1408 Southern Hills Shopping Center or call 417-256-1819. SAH Printing at 204 Porter Wagner Boulevard is the best place to get your custom screen-printed t-shirts, sweatshirts, and hats for the spring and summer sports seasons. Whether it's baseball, softball, or soccer, whether you're a Zizzer, Hornet, Panther, or Rocket, let SAH Printing make sure your t-shirt game is up to par. Just stop by 204 Porter Wagner Boulevard in West Plains or call 417-257-1642.
Coast to Coast AM brings the Ozarks a whole new feel for radio. Midnight to 6 a.m. every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point. Where else would you get callers talking about everything from UFOs to war trends, from mental energy to anomalies, and from lost knowledge to aliens? Listen to experts and researchers who are part of the guest list every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk. Don't miss Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Midnight to 6 a.m. every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point.
Okay, folks, we're back with Jere Gettle from Baker Creek Seed Company, and he's been kind of informing us about the history and the issues surrounding not only Baker Creek, but also the issues with some of the problems that we've experienced around the country with GMOs, genetically modified products, genetic engineering, hybridism, and so forth. If there's any questions out there that you'd like to fire a quick question over at Jere, we'll open our phone lines up at 257-1111. That's 257-1111, or our toll-free line at 866-554-6636. So, one of the things I think, Jere, that would really help in small towns and communities around the country would be just the advent of new farmers markets being opened in the old town squares that are, for all intents and purposes, in a lot of towns and cities, dead anyway. There's empty buildings and things like that. If we could get farmers markets where local farmers could bring their produce for sale and bypass all of the middlemanish type thing, and even if they don't produce really enough to go to a middleman and be a source for them, they still produce enough to be able to sell and help sustain their own family while benefiting the community.
Yeah, it's definitely encouraging to see the renewed interest, from farmers and consumers. I mean, the amount of farmers markets has, just increased every single year, across Missouri,
right,
and across the nation. I mean, we have more farmers markets than we've had, in several generations right now in the U.S., but we need to keep that going.
Sure.
And keep people realizing, I mean, if you pay $1 at a farmer's market, it's actually going to your community. You pay $1 at, down at your super center or wherever,
it's gone.
10 cents might end up in your community, and the rest goes here and there, right, and everywhere, and half of it might end up in China or Chile or some other place.
Sure. Well, we've actually
seen, not staying in your farm.
We've actually seen some studies that indicate that $1 spent locally rotates somewhere between 7 and $12 times before it runs its life cycle. Whereas when you're spending it with a conglomerate or a big chain store, it's come and gone one time. So 7 to 10 times is the rotation factor for a local dollar spent with local folks. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike and Jerry. It's Mike in Oregon County.
Good morning.
And first, I'd like to thank you, Jerry, for participating or sending your folks to participate in the Go Green festivals the last couple of times, and also sending Kathleen to Ozark Self-Reliant Living University to teach about heirloom seeds.
Well, we
really appreciate
that.
And you've been very outspoken about what I think is one of the more evil corporations in the world right now, Monsanto. I wondered if you'd like to address that.
Well, it's just, what we feel on, the issue with, the big issue we have is one company, and it's America's, the people's fault for letting it happen, because everybody can grow and save seed, but we've just forgot how, and farmers have forgot what to do. If farmers, what they need to do is take back growing, their seed and preserving their seed. But, we feel it's a big security issue when one company might control, 55% of all of the lettuce growing in the country. I mean, it's just issues like that, plus, the issue of, having genetic engineering and then patenting it in a way which even if a farmer's corn is cross-pollinated from his neighbors and he's growing, open-pollinated heirloom corn, he can still be sued because there's no way to prove he didn't steal the pollen, because you can't really see pollen being blown in the wind. There's just so many issues that aren't fair to, the smaller farmer with, the way the big corporate agriculture is going. If somebody's wanting to farm the way they've always been farming, now they're in danger of getting sued and getting their crop contaminated, and in some cases, if they're growing, organically, they won't be able to sell the crop.
Sure. The real challenge, as I see it, to that issue is that we just fought very, very hard here against that upcoming constitutional amendment to protect. We call it the Missouri Monsanto Protection Act. And we are standing firmly against it. I don't even want to see that thing pass, because it's all couched in a lot of language games that really, benefit only the major providers. And it's not just Monsanto. It's DuPont and a lot of other companies that are involved in this process.
And the way it's written, they write these things so they sound good. They write them so they try to make them appeal to people on both parties.
Right.
The average person just reads through it and goes, "Oh wow, we want farmers in our community."
Right.
But they don't realize that it's going to only help if you want farmers. It will help a certain class of farmers. If all you want is one mega farm all the way around your community, then it's probably what you want to vote for. But if you're wanting, a whole bunch of small farms, like, if you want to take it back,
or at least to protect them, to allow them to be available for you. That's the real
basically
challenge.
They can't compete with when you basically protect modern farming.
Right.
When you protect modern farming and you don't compete, originally the language was it was just protecting modern farming. When you just protect one class of citizens and you don't protect the other class, it won't be very long, and the one class of citizens is going to get the upper hand.
Sure. Well, we call that monopoly, and we see that monopolies only exist when government gives them a mandate to exist. Look at your utility companies and things like that. Anytime you've got government that protects a certain class, it creates a monopoly. Monopolies don't exist in a true free market. Because everybody's got to compete. But when you've got government giving some kind of an assurance that one particular company or one particular aspect of an industry can control it, then of course they benefit and everybody else loses. So the area that worries me the most about this is that you can with these laws that they've passed, even completely innocuously, having no involvement in it whatsoever, you can be sued by these companies just because your crop got cross-pollinated by their crop, which you had no control over. At some point it may come to this stage where, in order to protect yourself legally, you've got to actually do what you were talking about earlier, which is cover your corn with a bag, so to speak, so that it can't be pollinated. That's insane.
And the other thing you can do is what we do. It's expensive, and it's a bit. We've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars over the last 5, 7 years, 6, 7, 8 years, just due to the issue of losing crops and also additional costs and loss of sales through the seed company, because every year it's a big cost. We test, though. We send it off to a lab and test to just make sure that we don't sell anything that isn't, that has any contamination.
Right.
Which, that's an additional cost that we don't feel that we should have to be bearing every year, but, it's something that's there. We don't have a choice right now. And it's and not only the cost monetarily, it also it's all the cost in the value of our crops, the value of historic seed varieties that may not be able to be sold anymore because of the contamination issue.
Sure. And they've got this blanket authority to just operate. The example would be, if you lived next to a guy who was a noise polluter because he ran a generator 24/7, you would have the ability to stand up and say, wait a second, this guy doesn't have the right to, make all the rest of the neighborhood not be able to hear themselves think, or because he plays music out his back door. And here you've got basically the same situation where you've got, for all intents and purposes, these corporations that are bleeding over into the rest of society, and it's up to us to prove our innocence. It's kind of the guilty, until you prove yourself innocent mentality. And there's something desperately wrong with that.
Yeah, It's definitely not the way, and it's definitely not the way the average person even wants it in America. It's just a small group of people that the average person, doesn't see that as fair. You take a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old and tell them the basic scenario. It wouldn't be fair in any other situation. It's
right.
This is not a. It's just not fair that somebody that didn't do anything other than try to do what he's always done
gets
is
penalized
getting penalized for doing what he's always done.
Sure. Because he affects a company that has surreptitiously. I don't know how you patent life anyway. To me, that whole principle is there's something desperately wrong with the fact that we allow a company to patent a specific brand of life. I don't think that's what the original idea of patents was about anyway.
And there's still the question of, if you go into a supermarket or a hardware store and you buy a different tool, you can tell that it's actually different. You go into 2 fields of corn, the field of genetically engineered corn is not
readily apparent.
You can't tell the difference. There's even a question whether they've actually even created anything that's different enough to patent.
Sure.
All that's different is something that it's on a microscopic level. So,
right.
The average person isn't going to be able to go in and go, oh, that's genetically engineered, and that's not. It's not like you created a tool that you actually created. Life is not like, I agree with you there. I don't think life should be something that people own.
Right.
I don't think people should be patenting human genes and patenting what grows in nature.
Well, the only way they're
really created anyway.
The only way they're doing that, though, Jerry, is they are lobbying and paying Congress. They're buying and selling Congress to pass these laws that benefit them, which are clearly not in the best interest of the average American whom they're supposed to represent. And that's where the real challenge comes. So, hey, well, listen, I want to thank you very, very much for joining with us this morning. I think you've enlightened our audience, and I know that there's quite a lot of our folks who work with you already and purchase your products. And so thank you for sharing with us and giving us an insight into you and Baker Creek and what you folks are doing. I appreciate it very, very much.
Well, sure, appreciate what you're doing, and thanks for educating people about all the issues.
Hey, that's what it's all about. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Take care.
So, folks, if you are considering gardening, if you are working towards doing some self-sufficiency and self-reliance type gardening, by all means, please make sure that you're looking into the Baker Creek product. I think you'll find it valuable. You're listening to America's Voice Now. You can find us on the web at americasvoicenow.org. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. You can catch this and every other show on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/America's Voice Now. And we have just recently opened a new page on the Tea Party community. It's kind of like Facebook, but for conservative think. And you can find us there at teapartycommunity.com/ guess what? America's Voice Now. So we are going to be joined tomorrow morning by Doreen Hannes. And we'll be talking about a couple of issues, including the recent revelation that our governor has violated the law, and we have the proof in writing. So we'll be addressing some of that tomorrow as well. See you tomorrow morning, bright and early. Have a great day, and remember that...
Ladies and gentlemen, this is KBNV Birch Tree is the Ozarks best news talk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.